Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about the world and investing, and you need to start investing and saving now. Okay folks, I wanted to make this video sort of as a follow-up to my video where I talked about asking AI to build me a portfolio. And I've been doing some further research and watching videos of people in the know, people like Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. And he brought up a good point, and he had a video here just recently talking about $30,000 is all you need basically as seed money to build a financial plan to get you out of a situation where you're possibly in now. But I want to delve deeper into this and say you don't even need that much. And I'm going to give you some examples and real life story here. So stick around and we will talk about a few things that may benefit you. Okay, first of all, depends on how old you are, I suppose. If you're in your late 20s, 30s, 40s, you've got a long time horizon and you're able to perhaps focus more on growth. So we're going to touch on that as well. I'm getting closer to retirement, so I focus on growth as well, but also income. So Kevin O'Leary was saying things like $30,000 is all you need to get started. You need $10,000 put into an emergency fund, and then you need $10,000 invested for growth, and the other $10,000 for income producing investments. But I know for a fact, because I've done it, and you can start with a lot less. For any of you folks who don't know my story, I was in a profession or career for 20 years, and it paid quite a bit of money over the years, and I enjoyed the career. Unfortunately, I left that career about almost 2 years ago now, and I have since changed careers. But in the meantime, I was struggling to find work, and I had to liquidate some of my investments and some of my pension holdings that I had with my former employer. So I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about myself, that you've got to stay positive, stay focused. So what I ended up doing was I had a little bit of money invested back in 2020, and what happened was I had to dip into some of that to pay the bills, because I did get ill from that worldwide situation that was going on, and I was hospitalized, and it did affect my employment. Fortunately, I recovered and got back to work, and everything was good after that. But it did open my eyes, and it made me realize that, you know, we do have to make sure that we have the finances available to cover these bad times, because bad times will come. Emergencies come up. You know, my wife and I have a new home here, and a year or two ago, the hot water tank sprung a leak, and we found that out by water all over the basement floor. There was no water pressure in the house, so that was an immediate $1,800 on a Sunday. But we got that fixed. We did have the money to cover that. So yes, you do need some kind of an emergency fund, and you've heard many times that they say between 3 months to 6 months of your living expenses. If you can do more, that would be great. But at least have 3 months. So if your monthly needs are $3,000 a month, for your rent or your mortgage and utilities and whatnot, your bare necessities, groceries, we do have to eat. You need $9,000. So let's say $10,000 put away. Job loss, like I say, can happen. And sometimes as we get older, it's not that easy to get hired again. So I know what you're saying. Martin, I don't have any income to spare. I don't have any money, any extra. Well, you have to set priorities. Okay, you're going to have to do things. I canceled my gym membership. I canceled a bunch of monthly subscriptions like Amazon Prime and a whole slew of things. I saved about $180 a month just by slashing costs. Not eating out, maybe the odd time, maybe a fast food, something. But I remember back in the day when we were doing good, my wife and I, we would go to the restaurant, to a nice restaurant and have a nice meal. And that was $150, for a good meal and maybe a bottle of wine or whatever. So we cut that out. So you've got to do things. If you're a smoker, maybe you got to try to either wind down. Now you do have to live. You do have to have some vices. I like a beer once in a while, maybe a glass of wine or something else, but in moderation, because all that costs money. I remember taking some pop cans in and bottles into the to the bottle depot, and I got $40 cash, and I go, wow, $40 cash. But just think how much money we had to spend buying pop and beer and whatnot to get that. So first priority, look at your budget, look where you are, go back to your last 3 bank statements and see what you're spending your money on. That word budget, people don't like it, but you've got to know where you are so that you can change your course and find out where you're going. Okay, so what you got to do is you need to save some money, and don't put this money into your regular bank account. You need to find a high interest savings account, whether it's one of these online only banks. I do use some myself. I am getting 2.75% on the money that I've got in my bank. It's online only. FinTech, as they call it. So I use numerous different banks here. I am in Canada, so I use Wealth Simple, Neo, EQ Bank, Coho, a lot of different online banks. Simply Financial, President's Choice Bank as well, financial. So there are a lot that pay 1.75% to 2.75%. Previously, I was getting 4.5% on just savings, regular savings. But as the Bank of Canada lowers the interest rates, so does the money that we save there. So you need to have an emergency fund, number one. So let's get some money saved up. Get at least $3,000 or $4,000, preferably $10,000. Now, as I mentioned, Kevin O'Leary said now you need another $20,000, $10,000 for growth stocks and $10,000 for income producing. You don't need to start with $10,000 or $20,000 in this case. You can start with a few $100s and start buying a few shares. Now, as I am in Canada, and I told you in my last video, if you want to go back and look at it, I buy covered call ETFs, but I also buy now like Vanguard, VFV, and VNY, I believe it is. Now these are not covered call, and these are more for growth, but some of them do pay dividends or distributions. The dividends are more for single stocks, where distributions are what they call, I guess, for ETFs, exchange traded funds. Now, I would highly caution anyone from buying individual stocks like Tesla, like Apple, whatever, they're a lot more volatile. But if you're young and you've got 20, 30 years ahead of you, then you can maybe take that chance. But I would highly recommend being more diversified. Here in Canada, the big financial, the banks, financial services, that's a big one for Canada, as well as energy, utilities and pipelines. We do love our energy here. So for Canada, it's mostly financials and energy, where in the United States, it's mostly tech, it seems. So it's good to have a little bit of both. Now, I do have some exchange-traded funds that give me exposure to the global market, to Asia, to Australia, to Europe, and other places. And if anybody wants to know the ones that I use or the ones that I guess I could recommend here in Canada. Now, by no means is this financial advice specific to certain things. It's general advice for somebody who's younger and who thinks they're missing the boat. But even if you're in your 50s, you haven't missed the boat. I got my wife into some of these as well, and she's bringing in some dividends or distributions every month. Today, it's Friday, and Friday the 13th, and we get paid a few $100s now from just one exchange traded fund, and it's called Biggy, B-I-G-Y, from Evolve ETFs here in Canada, and it pays 2 times a month, so semi-monthly, and that's 24 times a year we get paid. So whatever I had previously, we get paid today. Now, whatever I have today, I'll get paid again on the 23rd of February. So I just keep adding. Now, it's important to reinvest all your distributions or dividends, and don't take that money just yet. Build it up. Now, like I say, I just in the short last 6-7 months, I've done very well. Now, I also use margin, a little bit of margin to help build faster. Now, a lot of people are scared of using margin because they think they're going to get a margin call. And yes, you can get a margin call, but a margin call doesn't mean you're going to have to pay back $50,000. It just means that if the market drops, which it has, and you get a margin call, the margin, it might say, hey, you need to add $76 or $400 to your account. And if you don't have that money, then you may have to liquidate or sell off some of your ETFs or investments. But like I say, if you use margin conservatively and leave yourself a good buffer, then you won't get a margin call. And so that's important. So, number 1, cut expenses, build some cash. Like I say, things happen. They will happen, and they always do. And so you need to start putting money away. This living paycheck to paycheck, it's not the way to go, folks. You know that. You know the stress. You know the stress you're in. You know, living paycheck to paycheck, not having any money is a terrible thing. You're basically a slave with a salary. They just pay you enough, and what they call job just over broke. You're being paid enough to keep you there, but if something happens, then you're going to be desperate because you don't have any savings. You'll take the first job that comes along because you have no choice. Fortunately, I've learned a lot, learned from mistakes. I've made good money over the years. I spent a lot of money, wasted a lot of money, but I guess you call it the school of hard knocks, or you could say that it's consider it a tuition to the street, right? But get yourself, you need to get into the stock market, folks. You do need to put some money away. Save some, but you're never going to save yourself rich. You've got to get money working for you. Every dollar that you've got that's not earmarked for your mortgage or your rent, groceries, utilities, a car payment. Don't get yourself a car payment for a car to impress people you don't even like. You can get yourself a really good car for $10,000. They'll get you through. I talked to a young lady at work. Well, she's not young, she's 40, married with a couple of kids, and she was driving a vehicle. It looked pretty good to me. It had some body rust, and she just told me that her husband bought it for her for $3,000, and it's an older vehicle, SUV. But hey, I couldn't tell. It looked good to me. And she says she hasn't had any issues with it, and she's a second owner. So $3,000, and she's getting to work, making money. So folks, you don't need that $40,000, $50,000 car. Back in 2008, I foolishly bought a BMW. It was a 2008 535i, turbocharged, everything. Beautiful car, a beautiful white sedan. And that car cost me a lot of money, and it was a waste of money. And about 6 months later, I got rid of it because I realized that it was just the car payment was crazy, and I did some dumb things. Like I say, wasted a lot of money, but it sure felt good driving it. Back in those days, it was a little harder to get a loan, and so I felt like I was somebody. But nowadays, I've seen people. I know people that work at Costco, and they're driving a Mercedes. So anybody can get a car loan pretty well nowadays, and they look rich, but then you know that they're making payments as well. So number one, cut costs. Your life depends on it, folks. Yes, it does. I don't care if you're 50 years old and you don't have a nickel saved. You can start changing your frame of mind. This is important stuff, folks. You need to start doing that. My wife and I have made major changes in our lives, and I started investing. And like I say, I'm getting close to 6 figures. And like I say, it's not to brag or anything. It's not to say, hey, look at me. It's something I'm reinvesting, constantly reinvesting. It's going to be another 2 years before I touch that money, but I need to build up enough money that I can start using that as in my retirement. My wife and I. So we're looking at $3,000, $4,000 a month that we can draw out. It's held in a tax-free savings account, so it's tax advantage, and I also have some in non-registered accounts. But we have to start thinking differently. I had a taste of retirement without money, and it wasn't very good. So we need to do more. Okay, get that emergency fund built up. Start. I don't care if you're in Canada. If you're in Canada, we have Quest Trade and we have Wealth Simple, and there's no commissions. Yes, there are management expenses that's built into the investments that you buy, but they're negligible. Say that twice. So anyway, start putting money away into some growth, because I didn't have growth. I had a good income. I had money coming in monthly that I was reinvesting, but I was not growing my portfolio with what I had. I was growing it by continuing to add more. And so, which is fine, but if you don't have any more to put in, you're not going to get anywhere. So I built up enough where I could reinvest that money and buy more shares. So 2,000 or 3,000 shares of something that's paying 27 cents, you're getting $500, $600, $700 or more. My last this month, about a week ago, I was paid $900 for just from one ETF, and so I've sold some of that off and invested into some growth things like Vanguard and iShares and that type of thing. But you need to do that. So you need to have both. You need some growth and you need some income. And especially when you get older, get to our age, if you just have your old age security or whatever, here in Canada, we have our Canada pension plan, because I've paid into it since 1980, as well as, your, like I say, old age security. Now, if you're in the United States, I'm sure you've got different kinds of pension plans, maybe from your former employer or your employer, or but you need to start looking into these things. Now, I think you've got Fidelity, you've got Robinhood, and Schwab, and other different brokers. So check into all these things, folks. And in the comments, if you need more information, I can give you more information. But you gotta start planning ahead. Otherwise, you will always be a slave to your employer, and it's not the way that we should live our lives. Stress can kill you, and it does. So, and money, finances is one of the biggest stresses there is. So, anyway, folks, this video is going to be like 20 minutes here, I see. So I'm going to cut it short, but. Please, if you haven't heard, if you learned nothing else, then change your mindset. Start saving. Put it in an account, and it's not for vacations. It's not to burn a hole in your pocket. This money is your future. You've got to start saving and investing, and you can do it. Check in often. I'll make some more videos if you want to hear more about this kind of things. I can show you some proof of what I'm talking about, and some screenshots of my investments if you want to see that kind of thing. So maybe leave it in the comments. I have come a long way in the last year and a half. So thanks to a lot of you folks, your prayers, your donations in the beginning there with buying me a coffee, that type of thing. It's all helped. That was seed money. I had a lot of coffees, but I also saved some of that, and I invested some of that too. So thanks to you folks. But I also take money from my pay. I get paid every 2 weeks, and I'm using that money as well. You've probably heard of something called buy, borrow, die. That works as well, where you buy quality assets like stocks, real estate, whatever. You never sell those assets. You borrow against those assets, like in my case, with margin, and you build up your assets. And in some situations, you can build it up, never pay it back, and when you pass away, your beneficiary or your heirs will take that, and they can sell off what they need to pay off the loans and then pocket the rest. So that's another topic for another video. Anyway, folks, have a great rest of your day. It's Friday the 13th, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. Take care, and God bless.